December 1st, 2025, 2:17 a.m., Persian Gulf. The crew of USS Arleigh Burke was 40 miles off the Iranian coast, conducting routine patrol operations. The night was calm, the sea was quiet, but 150 feet below the radar horizon, something deadly was approaching. Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders had been planning this moment for 6 months. A coordinated strike designed to catch the U.S. Navy off guard. What they didn't know was that American intelligence had been watching their every move.
At 2:18 a.m., 3 Iranian Kadir-class mini-submarines surfaced simultaneously just 12 miles from the destroyer. Their torpedo tubes were already loaded. Their targeting systems were locked. This was Iran's boldest move in decades, but it would also be their biggest mistake.
The attack began without warning. At 2:19 a.m., the first Iranian submarine fired 2 VA-111 Shkval torpedoes, Russian-made supercavitating weapons capable of traveling at 200 knots underwater. These weren't ordinary torpedoes. They were designed to outrun any defense system. Simultaneously, shore-based Iranian positions launched a barrage of Chinese C-802 anti-ship missiles. 12 missiles, streaking across the dark sky at point 9. Their infrared seekers locked on to the heat signature of the USS Arleigh Burke's engines. In the Combat Information Center, alarm systems erupted. Screens lit up red. Multiple inbound contacts, torpedoes in the water, air defense to weapons free. The crew had trained for this moment their entire careers, but training and reality are two very different things.
The Iranian plan was simple but deadly. Overwhelm the destroyer's defenses with a simultaneous air and sea attack. While the ship defended against missiles from above, the torpedoes would strike from below. It was a textbook saturation attack. The 3 submarines positioned themselves in a triangle formation, cutting off escape routes. The second submarine launched 4 more torpedoes. The third prepared its payload, a salvo designed to break the ship in half. For 47 seconds, the USS Arleigh Burke was surrounded by death, closing in from all directions. But here's what Iran didn't know.
The USS Arleigh Burke wasn't alone. 90 feet beneath the Persian Gulf, nuclear attack submarine USS Virginia had been shadowing the Iranian subs for the past 2 hours. U.S. naval intelligence had intercepted Iranian communications 72 hours earlier. This wasn't an ambush, it was a trap. At 2:19 a.m. and 30 seconds, the Virginia's commander gave the order that would change everything. Weapons free, engage all hostile contacts. What happened next took exactly 90 seconds. The Virginia fired 6 Mark 48 AD cap torpedoes, the most advanced underwater weapons in the world. Each torpedo's guidance system locked onto an Iranian submarine. There would be no escape. Simultaneously, the USS Arleigh Burke's Aegis combat system went into full defensive mode. The ship's ANSPY-1D radar tracked all 12 incoming missiles. Its vertical launch system erupted. 24 RIM-62 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles launched in 14 seconds. The night sky exploded with contrails. Each missile was guided by sophisticated algorithms capable of hitting a baseball traveling at supersonic speed. One by one, Iranian missiles disintegrated mid-air. Burning fragments rained into the ocean. Underwater, the Mark 48 torpedoes closed in on their targets at 55 knots. Unlike the Iranian weapons, these were hunting torpedoes, smart weapons that could pursue, evade, and reacquire targets. At 2:20 a.m. and 15 seconds, the first Iranian submarine tried to dive and escape.
too late. The Mark 48 struck its hull at the pressure point. The explosion was catastrophic. The submarine imploded under 400 feet of pressure water. All 21 crew members died instantly. 5 seconds later, the second submarine met the same fate. The third Iranian commander, watching his comrades die on sonar, made a desperate decision. He surfaced, attempting to surrender. But his torpedo tubes were still loaded, his weapons still hot. The rules of engagement were clear. The Virginia fired one final torpedo.
By 2:21 a.m., all 3 Iranian submarines were destroyed. But the battle wasn't over. The Iranian shore batteries, realizing their submarines were gone, launched everything they had. Another wave of missiles. This time, 18 more C-802s and 6 Russian Kh-35 cruise missiles. The commander of USS Arleigh Burke faced a critical decision. His ship had already expended most of its defensive missiles. A second saturation attack could overwhelm the system. That's when the FA-18 Super Hornets arrived. 6 fighters from the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, positioned 120 miles away, had scrambled the moment the first shots were fired. They covered the distance in 8 minutes, flying at Mach 1.6. Armed with AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles, the Hornets engaged the incoming threats from 40 miles out. It was a turkey shoot.
Within 90 seconds, every Iranian missile was destroyed. The Persian Gulf sky looked like a fireworks display, but these were multi-million-dollar weapons disintegrating into metal confetti. The Hornets didn't stop there. They conducted immediate strike missions against the Iranian shore batteries. 6 AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles locked onto Iranian radar installations. The missiles followed the radar emissions like bloodhounds, striking the facilities with pinpoint accuracy. In 11 minutes, Iran lost 3 submarines, 2 coastal missile batteries, 30 missiles, and approximately 180 personnel. The USS Arleigh Burke suffered 0 casualties. Not a single piece of shrapnel touched the hull. By 2:30 a.m., the battle was over. The ocean was littered with burning debris. 3 submarine crews would never return home. Iranian commanders watched in horror from their bunkers as their surprise attack turned into a total disaster.
The international response was immediate and severe. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. NATO condemned Iran's unprovoked attack on international waters. The European Union announced immediate sanctions. But the real message was sent silently. Within 24 hours, the U.S. Navy moved the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group directly off the Iranian coast, the largest display of American naval power in the region since 2003. 2 additional submarines were deployed. B-52 bombers began continuous patrol flights from Qatar. The message was clear. Any further aggression would be met with overwhelming force. Iranian Supreme Leader issued a statement calling it a training exercise gone wrong. No one believed it. International maritime tracking data, satellite imagery, and declassified U.S. intelligence told the real story. This was an attempted ambush that backfired spectacularly. Military analysts worldwide studied the engagement. It became a textbook example of several critical principles. First, intelligence wins wars. The U.S. knew about the attack before it happened. Second, technology matters. American sensors, weapons, and coordination were generations ahead. Third, training saves lives. The crew of USS Arleigh Burke executed their defense perfectly under extreme pressure. Fourth, never underestimate your opponent. Iran thought they could surprise the U.S. Navy. Instead, they learned a painful lesson about American military readiness. For the 342 sailors aboard USS Arleigh Burke, this was the night they'd trained for their entire careers. When seconds mattered, they performed flawlessly.
As the sun rose over the Persian Gulf on December 1st, the USS Arleigh Burke continued its patrol. The crew was exhausted but victorious. This engagement demonstrated why the U.S. Navy remains the most powerful maritime force in history. It's not just about having the best weapons, it's about having the best people, the best training, and the best intelligence. Iran's secret midnight strike lasted less than 2 minutes. The American response was even faster. This is the reality of modern naval warfare. When you challenge the U.S. Navy, you don't just face one ship. You face an entire network of satellites, submarines, aircraft, and the finest sailors in the world. The ocean remembers that night. So does Iran.